All right. Hey, it's Mike Belfor, and it is not I got dressed up for this, but it is my longtime good friend Grant Inaba with me, and someone that I think of as a friend, one of the better agents I've had a chance to work with over my 22-year career. And we used to do this every week at 11 a.m. on Tuesday when we're actually filming this. Again, Tuesday at 11 a.m. to just catch up about market strategy, find out what's going on with Grant. He's grown so much since we last did those weekly Instagram live. So, Grant, how are you, man? What's going on with you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm kind of surprised. Is it true that we actually started this way back a long time ago?
Yeah,
I know
you and I.
kind of with other agents, but we were the first ones.
Yeah, man. So I mean, for what I'm doing here, yeah, it was the first one. It wasn't the podcast format that I'm doing today. Like we load this on Spotify, and on YouTube, and the other channels. But yeah, I mean, you and I did Instagram Live in COVID starting April 2020, I think is when we started it. And I
Wow.
mentioned it to you. It's like, why don't we just give people an update on what's going on? Rates are dropping, home prices are over appreciating. It was a crazy market. So yeah, we took time out of our crazy busy schedules. We're closing like 10 to 15 transactions a year together. And we stopped. We're like, let's do Tuesday at 11. And we did it every Tuesday at 11, dude. It was awesome.
Yeah, and speaking of what you've been up to since then, I mean, it's been a lot of stuff going on. That whole time is a completely different era, in my opinion, especially when you're talking about real estate.
It's
The
completely
pandemic
different.
was crazy, and everyone else was standing still, and we were just running around with our heads cut off.
I know. And this was honestly like water cooler time, but we got to record it. And so we got to hang out and talk about stuff. And it was like, we always were like, oh, let's shoot for 20, 30 minutes. We're on for like 45. But we got a lot of people looking at it. We had like 100 people out on some of those just kind of watching them. And it was talking about what we're seeing because the East Bay market was, I think, the one of the strongest markets that we're seeing in California. Interest rates, of course, 30-year fixed at 2%. We had or no, 15-year fixed at like two, and then the 30 was around 2.5 to three.
Yeah.
Everybody was jumping in to buy a property at that time because they could. It's affordable, and the market actually turned out of that little slump that we had that first week or two of COVID and started to perform pretty well, right? So
Oh,
it's
that first week or two was chaos. It
yeah,
was like, oh my God, the whole economy is gonna fall apart. The world's gonna
yeah,
die, and real estate's gonna die along with it. That was crazy.
yeah, it was crazy, and it's hard to think or crazy to think that was already 5 years ago, dude.
Yeah, well, the trajectory of change has been just so immense. I mean, 2023, the interest rate went up, and everything
Yeah,
just kind of went to a grinding halt.
yeah, yeah.
In my business, you asked me what I've been up to lately. Ever since 2023, I've actually been going really strong. Even 2024 was pretty good, and then I just started to really slow down in 2025. In
Yeah.
fact, January I hadn't done anything from like January to March or so, and my wife started saying, are you not going to contribute with the bills anymore? I thought she was going to divorce me, actually. Almost,
Oh no,
actually.
I know your wife. She's amazing. She wouldn't do that. um,
But now
yeah,
I've like recovered, and I think this is probably going to be one of my strongest years,
that's
despite,
awesome.
losing January through March and May.
So usually how it turns out. We had a rough February too. We had about 7 million line to fund in February, and one by one they fell out for other reasons. We had one where a client forged his income
Wow.
and it manufactured W-2s and all that stuff, and we found him out, so we had to do that one. And then another one where it was closed in February. It was a three-unit building in Oakland, and a car ran into it before closing. So we had to get that all repaired, extend it another month. We had another one where, gosh, it was like everything happened that month. One where I guess a client found out something about a leak in the pool on her inspection. The seller didn't disclose it, so she stepped to ask her before closing it. Property down in Laguna Niguel, and it was a large purchase, and so everything just. But then again, like you said, March, and then we started doing TICs, and I knew you talked about that. But we're starting to see like TICs become more popular again, more affordable. And yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but last year was probably my best year ever, other than the COVID years. And then this year, aside from February, has been really strong as well, except for July 15th. It kind of paused there. Did you see a pause in July by chance?
You're talking about last month, July?
Yeah.
No, no,
No?
no.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, actually, July was extremely busy. July was like a whole anxiety attack, actually, for me.
For closings or people getting started?
It was more people getting ramped up and getting started. July was kind of medium, and then mid-July was getting crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you need help, let me know. Little footnote. But no, July 15th, we were busy until July 15th, and then it seemed like everything came to like a halt.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's a tariff situation or what's going on with our economy and things like concerns about jobs figures. And we saw the jobs numbers that came out, of course. And
Yeah.
then now it's picking up again. In fact, we had, 10 applicants apply in the last 2 days, which is great. But
Hmm.
it just really kind of slowed down in July, making August a little bit slower. People stepping out saying they want to return in September. And it reminded me, like, from when I met you, gosh, 10 years ago, that seasonality in our industry where it's really busy until July. You might have a really strong July. August drops off a bit, and then you start to pick up again September through the start of the holiday season. I think
Yeah.
we're seeing that a little bit. It reminds me of 2015. I was explaining that to my team, and this is kind of one of those things that we see.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I guess what are you getting in the East Bay then? Are you getting a lot of East Bay stuff? Is it kind of all over, and kind of is it more buyer or seller driven? What are you seeing out there?
Um, I kind of I feel like I knew that a slowdown was coming around 2020-ish or so,
Yeah,
after the pandemic, and I
right,
felt like it was really time for me to, kind of start going into more listing heavy business. And so I really switched up very intentionally, and it really kind of paid off. A lot of my listings are probate listings or fiduciary, relationships and things like that.
right, right.
So obviously those happen at any time. It's just you got to get tapped into the flow of that work.
Yeah.
Um, any other type of listings, I picked up here and there and things like that. But I really do believe that from what I observe out there in the world, listings are staying on the market much longer, which is creating a pent-up inventory, or kind of like a compounding inventory. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot more houses on the market. We're seeing a lot more buyer selection. We're seeing a lot more buyer patience. And I think it's only up until very recently that we've seen the buyers actually start jumping back into the market and really get engaged because they see so many properties to choose from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and previously, in terms of buyer sentiment and buyer activity, we would see buyers just like try and buy whatever they can
Yeah.
because they're worried about competition. They're worried about getting to that house, before everyone else.
Yeah.
And now that's definitely the exact opposite, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. And it's funny because I think that too, they could be, or I see that, should I say, where we're starting to see them having the ability to purchase more or less what they want, ask sellers for credit.
Yeah.
Even to come down in price depending on, how many days the property's been listed. Of course, the
Yeah.
longer, for those who are listening that don't know, the longer a property is listed, chances are the seller's like, oh my gosh, am I getting an offer? If you happen to be that offer that they've been waiting for, there's more room for negotiation in those circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think even more interesting too, as well, is that the sellers are assuming that they're going to have to give up a buyer credit. It's like no one had to tell them. They're still stuck on their prices.
yeah,
Yeah, they're still stuck on a very unreasonable 20, whatever 2015 and on type of pricing,
yeah,
but they're okay with giving a credit.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm actually going through one of these things right now with a relocation client. He bought his property 3 years ago, and basically he paid 900K for it,
Right.
and it's only worth like high 700,000s now. And I
Wow.
told him, I was like, look, this is the new market. We're gonna have to sell it this amount. And he said,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna sell it at $900,000. And I said, well, you're the boss, okay. And I'm really interested to see what happens with it. We're basically about 50,000 to $75,000 above the comps, and I really have actually very little faith that we're going to be able to sell this property. But out of obligation, I told him, I was like, look, let's go ahead and do it and see what happens.
So I guess that's the question. So what are you telling someone like that who's expecting, I guess, 2021 pricing? I mean,
Yeah.
are you how are you kind of telling your seller like, hey guys, it's not 2020 or 21, How are you breaking that down?
It's really hard. It's in fact impossible. It's like trying to, I don't know what the analogy is, but a lot of times sellers, they're just very, very stuck on what they believe, what they think they know,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to re-educate people. Like I said, this is a relocation. I'm part of the relocation department at Compass,
Okay.
where I work at,
Yeah.
and I have to take these these contracts. In fact, actually, I was interviewing with the seller, and while I was having a conversation with the seller, I was like, I hope they don't pick me. I really hope I don't get this listing.
Yeah.
And it just turns out they did.
Yeah.
And so now, I have to really kind of handle them with very, very kid gloves. I can't really come out and tell them the truth and say, hey, look, we can't sell this at this price. It's
Right.
impossible.
Right.
So a lot of times, what we have to do is we have to basically go with their plan and run it out, let them see what's going to happen, and then eventually sell it at the price that I think it's going to sell at. And
Right.
they, have to make that compromise over time.
Right.
Or we just get lucky too, as well, which always happens. I always tell myself that, it's a 1 in a million client that we got to find, just that 1 in a million buyer
Yeah.
who's going to pay that amount and, put in contract for us.
Well,
Um, yeah.
what's the biggest challenge you're seeing then, I guess, for the buyer side then? I mean, it's not so much competition. Is it still rates? Because there's more inventory, less competition. Is it just getting the seller to come down to meet that demand, do you think, or meet what they're asking for?
I think there's economic instability that scares them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big factor.
Yeah.
The whole world is kind of upside down. No one knows what's really going on.
Yeah.
All this tariff conversation and,
Yeah.
what should I invest in? Should I invest in crypto? Should I invest in stocks? Should I invest in real estate? Is real estate still a good buy? It's so expensive.
Yeah, that's
Um,
we heard that a lot for sure. I mean, the price of real estate's incredible right now. I mean, for a lot of folks, and they're looking at that rate. I mean, if you look at 2.5% versus 6 to 7%, where
yeah.
things kind of go back and forth depending on the day and the monitor, right? Because it does move very quickly, as you and I know. It's very
The
different, you know.
the
I
old
mean,
conversation when you and I started was that it's better to buy because who wants to pay that much money in rent?
right,
And now it's just as expensive, if not more, to buy. So why not just stay renting? On
hundred
top of
percent.
that, you got to come up with this big deposit, this big down payment, and a lot of people, I think the mentality, I believe, has shifted too as well. The millennial or the newer generations, they want to invest in experiences and not, material possessions and things like that. Although I do
Yeah.
think it's going to swing out and, kind of go in a different direction too as well.
I think so too. I mean, are you utilizing or is your team right now utilizing a lot of down payment assistance type programs for those folks that are like just tight on capital to put down on the property and kind of what are you hearing or what are you seeing, with your own team? Because there are those programs available, right? Where you can do 100% financing, down payment assistance through CalHFA or the Golden State Finance Authority. There is one even that did 200K for Oakland and Alameda counties. That was Home Assist that we had. But are you seeing any of those be utilized at all?
I'm seeing a lot of people asking questions about that,
Yeah.
but I don't see a lot of people engaging in it.
Okay.
Um, that CalHFA Drink for All thing was a huge success.
Yeah, it was.
Or I should say success for some people, not everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Ran out real quick. We had 9 days for the first one and about 6 for the second one, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, those tranches were short-lived for sure.
But
Um,
I'm probably not the best person to ask in terms of that either.
yeah,
I'm really trying to find higher price
yeah,
point clients. And so I'm
yeah,
not really finding myself connecting with a lot of lower price point buyers.
right.
Um, I think those buyers are always having to be creative and always having to figure something out. They're always
Yeah,
just like grasping for whatever straw they can find.
100%. So what price points are you seeing move the fastest right now in the East Bay? Like what are you seeing in your markets right now as far as kind of the one that's still on demand?
Easily the median home prices, Oakland, 1 million and above, that kind of 1.2 million
Yeah,
dollar 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,000 square foot house, that's
yeah,
really, really moving fast.
right.
Those are all the ones that it's really funny. The national news says that the real estate market's slowing down. The local news says that San Francisco market's doing really, really well, and nobody's reporting on Oakland. And Oakland, in my opinion, is still always hot on fire, and especially in that price point. What I have seen that's interesting to me is I'm always looking for investment, property to pick up and things like that. I've seen a lot more of the lower price point properties bottoming out. You can buy a property in Oakland now for, of course, it's a distressed property or a fixer up or things like that, or
Right.
very low level condition. But I mean, you can see them for like 350 now, and you
Yeah.
can never ever see that for a very long time.
No, that was 2012. I remember at one point in 2010, you could find a property in Oakland for 100 to 200K. I remember that really well. because I had a
Yeah,
client
I
who bought
bought one of
four of them.
my yeah, I bought my very first property in 2011 for 80K. It was one bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah,
Do you still have it?
I still have it. Yeah, I rented it out. When I
Awesome.
very first bought it, the mortgage was $350 or something like that.
Nice,
380.
dude. Was that when you were with Redfin, or was that before you were in real estate?
That was before I was in real estate, actually. It
Okay.
was like maybe like a minute before. It was like a couple months before or something.
Oh, it's
In fact,
crazy.
actually, the agent that I used, she became a Redfin agent, and I joined Redfin right after that.
That's so funny. I remember you telling me about that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
it was so funny when she gave me the keys. She was so mad at me because her commission check was like I think it was like $1,000 or something like that. She's like, here, I did $3,000, $4,000. I wasn't
oh,
mad though.
well, that's funny because I mean, I remember that era really well too, because a lot of stuff that we were doing back then. I mean, my first property I bought in Petaluma for 200K,
Yeah.
right, in 2010, and it was 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, and I still have this rental was paid off. And then my next one was, 350, I think. And you were
Mm.
at that house. That was the one that was on San Jose Way, when we used to throw, parties and get-togethers and all that stuff. But that one, I mean, they both appreciate. They're both coming down a little bit though in those markets as well,
They
right?
are.
Because it's just slower. People are finding it a little bit harder to buy, and people are still wanting to sell for one reason or another. A lot of people are either downsizing, moving out of area, whatever it might be, and it's just that days on market's increasing. So I'm talking to a lot of listing agents, and I'm curious to see if you're doing the same thing. Are you taking listings now in preparation to start launching them in the fall or in September? Um, is that kind of your game plan, or are you going live right away once you get them and they're prepared?
Yeah. A lot of times, people that it's really interesting. I never ever get the like really, really nice listings at whatever price point they are. It's always, I always get these, I don't know what it is. It's like they know that I'm the problem solver or something like that. I always get these
Mm.
problem properties that, it's like either I got to get rid of it right now, I got to do everything right now,
Yeah,
or it's a very, very long timeline. It's like,
yeah,
a year out,
yeah,
we do all these repairs and things like that in the meantime.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't have that luxury of actually planning out when we go to market. It's really depending on what the client needs, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Wow. All right. So I guess the question then is, I know you run a team, a lot of great agents under you. So how are you coaching them in today's market? What are you telling them? That's a big thing. I think anybody listening to this would want to know as far as an agent. Yeah, what are you telling your team right now in a market like this one?
I'm always telling them just go to work and be opportunistic and earn what you actually, work on, work
Yeah,
for. Uh, and I think that should be the case with any market. That's basically how I survived throughout the whole real estate career that I've had.
yeah,
It was just go to work, put your head to the grindstone, and take advantage of every opportunity.
yeah. And
Um,
continue to market, continue to connect with people. That's how you and I met. We actually met through social media in 2014 or 15 or something, right?
I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Huh.
and you know, I do think that there is a huge amount of but there's like an X factor, and I call it the business IQ, and business smarts basically. You've got business smarts that's way above the average, that's higher level of thinking than most other people out there in the market, then you're going to do better. If there's anything to focus on, it's focus on opportunities and sharpening your business IQ and your business eye to be able to take advantage of these opportunities.
Yeah,
They're everywhere. A lot of people are all kind of doing the same thing. They're all chasing after the successful things that's happening. If you see something you think is an opportunity that might generate business, then I say go for it.
100%. And I think, do your diligence too, right? Like you and I stepped into a lot of things that were almost like, oh my gosh, really? We're going to pull this off. And it's kind of fun at the same time, but you're kind of in the foxholes, and we did well back then. And I think, coaching them in that and just saying, take the opportunity. I mean, it's worth the risk 9 out of 10 times, right? And at least to get the learning experience, because, figure out if something works versus it doesn't. The first BMR property I think I ever closed was with you. And we did BMR in 2020. And I always think back to that, but I always look back to that because I think about that with, clients today that ask about BMRs, because we're hearing more about BMRs. We're hearing more about TIC type properties, right?
Yeah.
Which is fractional ownership or a co-op. We're starting to see more of these things. And before then, we didn't really see too much of that, but it allows you to be that much better honed for the next one, right? You kind of had that tool in your toolbox, if you will, to be able to kind of proceed with that. So I like that, man. That's good. Um, are I'm sorry.
I was going to say, speaking of that BMR thing, that client actually, he came back to me and his mom cashed out her savings and bought a condo in cash.
Did she? Okay. I was wondering about that because he's still a good buddy and he just works a lot. So it's always hard to connect with him. Right. But, I text with him or email him back and forth and I know they're looking to do something. And that's good to hear because, I mean, it's those clients that you develop good relationships with. And yeah, he's just good people, man. And yeah, we had some of the best clients, man, when we worked with him and throughout that season. Uh, very, very interesting season that we had then as well. Because I also think about one where she kind of said that she was still working at an employer that was a retailer in San Francisco, and she wasn't working there. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't. Oh,
Yeah, it was a condo one.
yeah, you're talking about the condo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I remember that thing, right? But it's how you learn and grow and just refine the process. And I think telling your team or coaching your team through that is huge. That note, are you seeing open houses with your listings? Are those back to being effective? And kind of are you seeing like a lot of buyers come through? Are you seeing that sort of marketing through the farming of that market area when you have a listing? Are those being kind of effective tools for you right now, do you think?
I think when it's priced right, then yes. But pricing is such a difficult thing to do these days.
Yeah.
Having said that, in general, I don't really do open houses anymore. I haven't done an open house in like, especially outside of my own listings. I haven't done an open house for someone else in maybe a year or two.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, most of my business is all referral, repeat business now.
That's great.
But I kind of, as an outsider looking in and not having someone having skin in the game or a personal, vested, uh, uh, interest in the outcome,
Mhm.
I would tell you that open houses are not doing very well, that they're not effective, that nothing is effective really. Really, it's just a matter of trying to. It's always been do as much as you can in order to get the listing out there and get it in front of people's eyes and
Yeah.
make it available.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a whole everything in general is I think on a on a on a stasis par and nothing's really doing all that great. Nothing's really standing out in my opinion. And that includes open houses too as well.
Interesting. So, most of your referrals, what referral strategies do you have right now that are kind of working for you? Is it just continuously following up with your clients, following up and kind of doing the sphere and just reaching out? What's
Yeah,
working for you right
yeah, definitely. It's reaching out to my clients. It's actually it's interesting. The beginnings of my real estate career was all about just turning transactions over. It was, close this one, get to the next one, close this one, get to the next one. I close like five at a time. And now it was always my goal to only work with one client at a time.
now?
Now I'm finally starting to realize that. And in doing that, I'm able to invest much more personal time with that person I'm working with at that moment.
Yeah.
And so, we can talk about the weather, but we can also talk about other things like, my family, their position in life, what they're planning on doing with their life, the forward things, family, occupation, retirement dreams,
Yeah.
recreation dreams. It's like those things, And I'm able to actually develop a much more personal relationship with these people that has the appearance of friendship, if not actually being friendship.
It's huge.
And
That's huge.
the nice thing is actually I see these people face to face. I get to have dinner and lunch with them face to face. I get to actually, hang out with their kids and pick them up and play with them and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was something that I never ever focused on before.
Awesome. I love it,
So
man.
yeah, so I think there's a little bit of that. And I think it's a lot of people that just, remember me and remember the good work that I did. And then I kind of turn them into friends now because I have time to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, those are your ideal clients, the folks that you create relationships, right? And anybody
Yeah.
listening, it just goes to show that Grant is literally one of, if not probably, in my opinion, the best in his market. I guess how do people reach you, man? Is it still jumping on your website, Instagram? What's the best way, or what's your prefer way for people to connect with you?
Grant at Good Agents.
Okay.
Uh, uh, re.com. That's my email address. My social media is Grant Good Agent across everywhere. And, they can get a hold of me through you.
Yeah,
After they
for
get
sure.
approved,
Of
and
course.
have them connected me, and we'll get working on that.
If you want to connect with Grant, Grant's amazing. Now, I do have to ask you a question, man. What do you miss most about those IG lives that we used to do?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I was definitely, yeah, what's funny is that we would do them everywhere. Like I remember being in my car, I'd be getting ready to go into an appointment, and I'd jump on with you, and
Yeah.
we called it "I got dressed after this." So I'd always intentionally put on a shirt, even
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
wasn't wearing
I was wearing a suit, right? Because back in those days, we all wore suits to work. Remember that? Like the mortgage guys, especially, right? So I was wearing board shorts with like a colored shirt and a suit jacket. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Do people dress down now? Because I always felt like you should dress up anyway.
If I was meeting in a professional setting and I'm not in the office as I am now,
Yeah,
I feel the same way. I wear aloha shirts during like nice aloha shirts because when I worked in Hawaii, that's what we did. You wear an aloha shirt, and so I'll do more of those now. But if it's one of those things where I'm presenting or if I'm kind of doing a one-on-one, yeah, I agree with you. But also, like you, I come from the old school where I think there's something to be said about dressing professionally.
yeah.
For sure, I agree with you on that 100%.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, that was good, man. I do miss that. I remember seeing you in your car a lot. I remember that. That was good
Crazy.
times. That was great times. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. All right. Well, we got to do more of these. We're going to get back to you again, man. And definitely, I appreciate your time and us actually doing the one-on-one like this. Like I said, I missed it. It's been a couple years since we did I think it was before Amelia was born. So that was 3 years ago,
Wow.
right?
Really.
Yeah. Since we did I got dressed up for this and we did that for quite some time. So it's cool that we did this, man. So thank you again, Grant. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Anytime.
All right. Well, definitely. I'm gonna leave his information below. If you want to connect with Grant, you can just message me, of course, as Grant had mentioned, or check out his information below this recording. And to all of you out there, have an amazing summer and stay in the market. I think there's opportunities out there if you're buying or selling, and if you're doing so in the East Bay, Grant is your man.